If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below. The 1950s is considered by many as the golden age of science fiction. A number of iconic films come to mind. 3 major studios, including Paramount Pictures, with films like War of the Worlds. Warner Brothers would follow, with various mutant monster movies. Universal would take the lead with some very inventive and interesting science fiction films. This Island Earth was the real space opera of its time, the Star Wars of the 1950s. Made in 1955, This Island Earth was the most expensive science fiction film of its time, and the film offered some of the best visual effects of the era. This Island Earth was based on the 1952 novel of the same name by writer Raymond F. Jones. The story was originally published in the magazine Thrilling Wonder Stories. Though he was not one of science fiction's greatest writers, Jones did write well-crafted sci-fi stories, and he had brought out quite a number of books during the 1940s and the 1950s. His stories were often rooted in science and had a great intelligence to them, and often tackled political, scientific, philosophical, or moral questions of the time. Universal International Studios, not known at this time for its science fiction films, wanted to do the first fully fledged space opera. Their pitches were mainly monster movies, and their productions were usually lower in budget, and Universal saw a great need to produce bigger pictures. This Island Earth had to be unlike anything that other studios were churning out. The film was a very ambitious film, to say the least. Joseph Newman had been directing since 1942. He had directed a number of well-regarded B-westerns and film noir films. After Newman left 20th Century Fox in 1953, a novel called This Island Earth was brought to his attention. He bought the rights to the novel. Friend, writer George Callahan adapted the novel into a screenplay. Callahan had no experience whatsoever in writing science fiction scripts. He was known mainly for writing detective mysteries like the Charlie Chan films. Director Newman offered the rights of the book to Universal, who saw great potential in the story, to bring it to the big screen. Newman had one condition though, that if they wanted the book, they would also have to buy the script and hire Newman as director, and titled the film This Island Earth. The storyline had all the key ingredients Universal was searching for. William Alland, Universal's chief science fiction producer, thought the script lacked a moral message and needed a few changes to it. He gave the script to screenplay writer Franklin Cohen to rewrite. After the script was rewritten and approved, the film was rushed into production. Actor Rex Reason was cast in the lead male role. This Island Earth was his first major lead role in a film. He had appeared in numerous films throughout the 50s. He did 2 Universal films under the name Bart Roberts. He demanded to the studio that he use his own name, Rex Reason, which I've got to say sounds more like a Hollywood screen name. In This Island Earth, he would play scientist Dr. Cal Meacham. Faith Demergue was only 15 when she was discovered by film producer and aviator Howard Hughes. Demergue did a number of films, but she was never the big star she wanted to be, and she was mainly cast in films for her looks. This Island Earth was really her most high-profile role. She was cast as the main female character, Ruth Adams. Actor Jeff Mauro was a veteran of the stage, and he had experience doing Shakespeare on radio. He made his screen debut in the 1953 biblical epic The Robe. He received high praise for his performance in the film. He mainly appeared in B films, while starring in a number of A-grade films. He was a well-respected character actor, but was never a major actor in Hollywood. He was picked up by Universal in 1955 to play Exeter in This Island Earth, because the studio thought he would be perfect for the role. He started 10 days before his contract at Universal. Mauro enjoyed different aspects of the script, but thought his character was far too one-dimensional. He added depth, scope, and intelligence to the character of Exeter. He said about the role, "The thing I felt was important about This Island Earth was the fact that there was a sense of hope that if we do ever come to meet people from another planet, in some way, we'll be able to communicate on a human level of understanding. Actor Lance Fuller, a favourite among sci-fi fans, co-stars in This Island Earth as a Metalunian assistant, Brack. His first role was when he was 15 in the 1943 film Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and acted in a number of Universal films, getting supporting roles, but his career didn't really go past anything but playing small bit roles in various films. Actor Russell Johnson, who we all would come to know and love as the Professor on Gilligan's Island, plays Steve Carlson in the film, but doesn't really do much in the movie. Johnson would make many science fiction films, mostly low budget. His most well-known of the films would be It Came From Outer Space in 1957. Principal photography for This Island Earth started from January the 30th and finalized on March the 22nd of 1954. Location shooting took place at Mount Wilson, California. Faith Demerg found the shoot tough. According to Demerg, she was black and blue from shoulder to feet when she was battling that monster. And in the lake scene with Rex Reason, the water was freezing cold and not clean, and there were explosives, so they both had to go underwater. Rex Reason said the set had a good vibe, and said producer William Alland was great because he was a very hands-on producer who constantly had ideas and opinions about the film and had a lot of imagination, and he was always fascinated with what he was doing. Reason said on set, co-star Jeff Mauro kept pushing him to always do better in his acting. He also said Mauro was always in his part and had a lot of respect for his fellow actors. Demerg, however, did feel that Mauro was a hard man to get friendly with, as he would always stay in character and often kept to himself off set. The movie cost about $800,000 to make, making it one of the most lavish science fiction movies that Universal had ever produced up until that point. The film was filmed in beautiful Technicolor. Producer William Alland kept things very interesting, with great sets, props, and probably the best special effects seen on screen up until that time. A small miniature set of Metaluna was built, 30 meters long, and was designed by art directors, double Oscar winners Alexander Golitzin and Richard Riddell. The special effects department said the mutant costume originally had legs that matched the upper body. They had so many problems making the legs look and work properly, and due to the studio deadline, had to have the mutant wear a pair of trousers. Movie posters, however, would show the mutant as it was supposed to be seen. The mutant was played mostly by stuntman Regis Reggie Parton. The sound effects for the ship were mostly recordings of radio transmissions, picked up by a shortwave radio, played at various speeds. The Metaluna flying saucer design was based on a famous photograph of a UFO. In 1950, a farmer named Paul Trent saw and photographed a strange craft flying overhead. He took 2 photos before the craft sped off at fantastic speed and disappeared over the horizon, known as the Mcminnville Incident, because it happened in Mcminnville, Oregon. Trent's photographs were never exposed as a hoax. They remain among the very best photos ever taken of a UFO. The Earth miniature used in the effect shots was also used to make the Earth in Space Universal Pictures logo opening from the 1950s until the 1980s. Universal was dissatisfied with some of Joseph Newman's work and brought in director Jack Arnold to reshoot the Metaluna scenes. Many of the design shots made with matte paintings for the movie may look cheesy by today's standards, but back in the 1950s, they were way ahead of their time. The actors would be composited into the shot. More was added, including the constant fireworks and explosions. Some of these were done with miniatures matted into the frame. Roswell A. Hoffman was in charge of visual effects photography. He worked on films like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds in 1963. Bud Westmore was in charge of special makeup effects. Universal wanted to recreate the score from their other hit, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, by using the same 3 composers, Henry Mancini, Hans J. Salter, and Herman Stein. They create one of the most iconic themes of science fiction. While promoting the film, Jeff Mauro and Rex Reason said that when scenes involving the mutant came up during the premiere, They stopped themselves from walking out because they were embarrassed by the mutant costume. They felt that the mutant completely ruined a mostly decent film. This Island Earth was released in June of 1955, and the film by the end of the year earned $1.7 million, making it one of the biggest pictures of 1955. The film was released in 1955 as a double bill with Abbott and Costello, Meet the Mummy. Upon its release, the film was praised by critics, who thought the special effects were spectacular and the film had a very well-written script. One reviewer said, "The technical effects of This Island Earth, Universal's first science fiction excursion in colour, are so bizarre and beautiful that some serious shortcomings can be excused, if not overlooked." Another critic wrote that the film was the most imaginative, fantastic and cleverly conceived entries to date in the outer space film field. The film was a major success, but never was the cash grab that Universal was hoping it would be. And This Island Earth was the last effort at doing a big-budget sci-fi film for a while. After this, Universal stuck to their tried and tested formula of scary monster movies that were cheap and in black and white for the rest of the 50s. In 1961, an 8-minute 8mm cut of the film was released by Castle Films, beginning in 1961. There was even a planned sequel in the works in 1956. Screenwriter Franklin Cohen and producer William Land submitted a script titled Aliens in the Skies to Universal Pictures. For a short while, the film was actually in pre-production and was planned to be released in 1957. Studio boss Edward Mull looked over the proposed budget for the film, which was to be shot in glorious Technicolor and CinemaScope, with the original two lead actors, Rex Reason and Faith Demergue, reprising their lead roles. This project was sadly never to be, and the project was deemed far too expensive. This Island Earth has also been referenced in many films and TV shows, and even in a video game titled Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders in 1988. In the original series of Star Trek's episode, All Our Yesterdays, Kirk tells the prosecutor that he comes from an island called Earth, which is an obvious reference to the film. This Island Earth is up there as being one of the most intelligent science fiction films of the 1950s. It was also the first fully fledged space opera. I first came to know about This Island Earth after I saw the Joe Dante film Explorers, which pays tribute to the film throughout. Sure, by today's standards, the film is laughable in parts, but I've always had a lot of affection for the film. It was a definite influence to me, as far as my love for science fiction films went. The story is very inventive for its time, even closely matching the brilliance of science fiction films like Forbidden Planet in 1956. The film was definitely a major technical achievement of its time. My name is JonnyBaak. Thanks for watching.